My name is Maya, and I'm going to tell you the exact moment my father decided my future was optional. I was 18, and he looked me in the eye like it was nothing, like he was returning a borrowed pen, and said, the $45,000 college fund with my name on it was already handled. Handled meant gone. Not spent on tuition, not saved for books, not even kept untouched until I signed my enrollment forms. He took it and redirected it to buy my sister a house. And in that second, I realized something colder than poverty. In my family, love had a price tag, and mine didn't scan. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I asked one question, just one, and the answer told me everything I needed to know about where I ranked. My hands were shaking when I grabbed my keys, but my voice was calm when I said, "So you're really doing this?" Because the truth is, that night didn't just steal my education. It rewrote my last name into a warning label. And the part nobody tells you is this: betrayal doesn't always come with screaming and slammed doors. Sometimes it comes with paperwork, a quiet tone, and someone who's supposed to protect you acting like you're the problem for even noticing. I slept in my car after I left, and that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was what they did next, when they realized I wasn't coming back on my knees. Before I tell you what he said, and what happened after I walked out, tell me, what time is it for you right now, and where are you watching from? I'm curious to see how far this story will travel, and if you want more real high-stakes stories with lessons you can actually use, hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because this one only gets sharper from here. I didn't grow up thinking my family hated me. I grew up thinking I was simply the capable one, the kid who didn't need extra attention because I could handle things. That was the story they sold me, and for years I believed it. My sister was the one who deserved softness. If she messed up, they explained it away. If I messed up, they turned it into a character flaw. She got comfort and second chances. I got pressure and expectations. I was the one they called when something needed fixing, translating, scheduling, paying, cleaning, smoothing over. They didn't say, "We're using you." They said, "You're mature." Like maturity meant I should be thankful for being overlooked. And the older I got, the more I realized the favoritism wasn't random. It had a logic. My sister made them feel needed. I made them feel challenged. She was emotional, loud, always demanding space in the room. I was quiet, focused, always building my future like it was an apology for existing. They didn't reward effort. They rewarded dependency. The year she got married, their bias turned into something almost religious. Everything became for the wedding, and every conversation ended with the same message: don't make this about you. They paid deposits like consequences were optional. They talked about venues and flowers and upgrades while I watched my mother move numbers around like she was playing a game she didn't understand. I remember standing in the kitchen hearing them argue about money, not in a worried way, but in a prideful way, like the ability to spend was proof they were good parents. The irony was brutal. I was the one applying for scholarships, writing essays late at night, working tutoring jobs after school, saving every dollar. I wasn't asking for luxury. I was asking for permission to leave that house through education. I had one thing that made me feel safe: my college fund. $45,000, saved in my name, promised to me for years. It wasn't just money, it was a contract, a bridge out. Then my 18th birthday arrived, and I came home thinking maybe, just maybe, I'd finally be treated like I mattered. I wasn't hoping for a party, I was hoping for respect. I walked into the dining room and saw paperwork spread out like a quiet crime scene. Bank documents, printed statements, a pen uncapped. My dad didn't even pretend to be warm. He had that calm face he used when he wanted to sound reasonable while doing something unforgivable. "We made a decision," he said, and my mom nodded like she was backing him in court. My stomach sank. What decision? I asked. My mom answered first, voice clipped and certain. Your sister needed a home, she said, as if that ended the discussion. I blinked. What does that have to do with me? My dad finally said it. The college fund. It's handled. Handled. That word hit harder than yelling would have. I forced myself to breathe. Handled how? My dad exhaled like I was exhausting him. We used it for the down payment, he said. My throat tightened. You used my college money to buy her a house? My sister wasn't even in the room, but she didn't need to be. The favoritism was sitting right there at the table, wearing my parents' faces. I tried to stay logical because panic makes me stutter, and I refused to give them the satisfaction of seeing me break. That money was for tuition, I said. For school. My mom's eyes hardened. You can take loans, she replied, like she was offering a solution instead of confessing betrayal. I stared at her. So I'm supposed to start my adult life in debt because you chose her comfort over my future? My dad's voice rose. Watch your tone. That sentence made something in me snap into clarity. They weren't sorry. They were offended, I noticed. My mom leaned forward and delivered the line that told me I would never be their child in the way I needed. Your sister has responsibilities, she said. A marriage, a household. She needs stability. I couldn't stop myself. And what do I need? I asked. Silence. Not because they didn't hear me, because my needs weren't part of their math. My dad got impatient. Don't make this a scene, he said. Family helps family. I swallowed hard and said the only true thing left. Family doesn't steal, I replied. My dad slammed his hand on the table. Enough, he barked. You're being selfish. Selfish. The word they used whenever I asked not to be sacrificed. I felt my hands shake, but my voice came out low and steady. You just told me my future is negotiable, I said. And you expect me to smile about it. My mom scoffed like I was overreacting. You'll get over it, she said. That was the moment I understood. This wasn't a mistake. It was a pattern reaching its peak. And if I stayed, they would keep taking until there was nothing left of me to take. I went to my room and started packing with a calmness that scared me. Not because I didn't feel anything, but because I felt too much, and numbness was the only way my body could function. I didn't pack like someone going on a trip. I packed like someone escaping a flood. Clothes, my laptop, the folder of scholarship essays I'd rewritten until my eyes blurred, my ID documents, and the tiny things that mattered because they were mine. Every time I folded a shirt, I heard my mom's voice. You'll get over it. Every time I zipped a bag, I heard my dad's. Family helps family. The lies had rhythm, like they'd been practicing. My phone buzzed, my dad calling. I stared at the screen until it stopped. Then it buzzed again. I didn't answer because I knew him. If I picked up, he wouldn't apologize. He'd argue. He'd lecture. He'd reframe it until I felt guilty for being robbed. In the hallway, I heard my mom approaching, and the pressure in my chest rose like a warning siren. She knocked once, not gently, then cracked the door open like she owned the air in my room. Maya, she said sharply, don't be dramatic. I didn't look up. You're not leaving, she added like it was an order. That's what it was. An order. She didn't ask where I'd go. She didn't ask if I was safe. She asked for obedience. I carried my bag down the hall, and my dad stepped into my path. He looked at me the way he looked at bills. Annoyed but necessary. Put it down, he said. We'll talk when you calm down. I kept walking. My dad's voice got harder. You're not going to embarrass this family, he snapped. There it was again. Not concern for me, concern for reputation. My mom followed behind him, firing off words like bullets. "If you walk out, don't come back," she said. I stopped for half a second, turned, and met her eyes. "You already made sure I can't come back," I said quietly. Then I walked out before my courage could melt. The air outside felt colder than it should have, and my hands shook so badly I almost dropped my keys. I got in the car, locked the doors, and sat there breathing like I'd just run miles. For a few minutes, I didn't drive. I just listened to the silence that finally belonged to me. Then the texts started. Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "Please come home safe." It was all control. "Come back. Stop acting crazy. You're ruining everything." My dad left a voicemail that sounded like a legal warning instead of a father. My mom sent a message that said, "If you're really leaving, you're on your own." I read it twice and realized she meant it as punishment, but it was also permission. I drove until my thoughts stopped chasing me. I parked in a lot where other cars sat overnight, curled up in the back seat, and tried to sleep. That first night was a battle between fear and pride. Fear said, "You have nowhere." Pride said, "Anywhere is better than being owned." My body ached. My mind wouldn't shut off. I kept imagining my parents sitting comfortably in their house, acting like they'd taught me a lesson, while I lay cramped and hungry in the dark. The unfairness felt like poison. And then another thought came. Small, but sharp. If they can take $45,000 from me and still call me selfish, then nothing I do will ever be enough for them. So I stopped trying to be enough. Around dawn, I opened my phone and scrolled to one contact I'd never dared to lean on the way I should have. Benny. He was my mentor from school, the only adult who talked to me like my future mattered more than my family's ego. My fingers hovered over the screen because asking for help felt like admitting defeat. But I wasn't defeated. I was redirected. I typed, "I can't go home. They took my college fund. I'm sleeping in my car. I need help figuring out what to do next." Then I hit send before fear could talk me out of it. The moment the message left my phone, my chest loosened, like I'd finally chosen the right kind of pride, the kind that keeps you alive. Benny replied fast, like he'd been waiting his whole life to be the adult my parents refused to be. "Come to the cafe on 8th. I'll be there." When I walked in, I tried to look normal, but my body was betraying me. I was exhausted in a way sleep can't fix. Exhausted from being treated like disposable. Benny didn't ask questions like an interrogation. He asked one thing first. "Are you safe?" That one sentence almost broke me. I nodded, swallowed hard, and told him the truth. Not in a dramatic monologue, just facts, because facts were all I could hold without falling apart. College fund, $45,000. Down payment for my sister. Birthday. You'll get over it. Benny listened with a quiet anger, and when I finished, he leaned forward and said, "Okay, we're going to turn this into a plan." Those words mattered. Plan. Not prayer. Not hope. Steps. He pulled out a notepad and broke it down like we were solving a real problem, not judging my emotions. First, immediate survival. A gym membership for showers. A safe list of places to park. A cheap phone plan. A small emergency stash of cash. Even if it started at $10. Second, income. Something stable with flexible hours, paid weekly. Third, education. Community college first, because it's affordable and it keeps momentum alive. "You can still transfer," he said. "Your path just changed lanes." Then he said something that rewired my brain. "Your parents' power comes from money and guilt. You're going to remove both." He introduced me to someone he trusted who helped me find a part-time job quickly. It wasn't glamorous. It was survival. I worked mornings, studied afternoons, and spent nights in my car with my laptop balanced on my knees. Some days I felt unstoppable. Other days, I felt like a mistake society forgot to correct, and the setbacks came fast. One week, my car battery died, and I stared at my account balance like it was an enemy. I could fix the battery or pay tuition. I chose tuition. I walked to work in the rain, pretending my shoes weren't filling with water, pretending I wasn't humiliated, pretending I wasn't furious that my parents could have prevented all of this with one decent choice. Another night, a security guard knocked on my window and told me I couldn't park there anymore. He wasn't cruel, just firm, and that was somehow worse because it reminded me how fragile my situation was. I nodded, drove away, and had to pull over because my hands were shaking too hard to keep steering. That's when I learned a truth they don't teach in school. Poverty isn't only about money, it's about how one small problem can threaten your entire life. So I fought back the only way I could, by becoming precise. I tracked every dollar. I learned how fees work, how interest eats you alive, how banks profit from confusion. I built a budget and treated it like a shield. I started watching free lectures, reading about personal finance, credit, investing, risk, and the psychology of spending. It wasn't just about getting rich, it was about never being trapped again. Community college became my anchor. The campus library became my second home. I found people who talked about goals instead of drama, people who didn't know my family history and didn't care. They only cared that I showed up and did the work. Benny kept checking in, not as a hero, but as a lighthouse. Small signals that kept me from drifting back into hopelessness. One afternoon, he asked me what I was building when I wasn't studying. I hesitated, then told him about a simple budgeting tool I'd started creating, something designed for students like me who were one emergency away from collapse. He didn't laugh. He didn't call it cute. He said, "Good. Build it like your life depends on it." Because it did. That tool became bigger in my mind. It wasn't revenge, not yet. It was proof. Proof that my future didn't belong to the people who stole from me. When the flyer for the startup event came around again, I stared at it like it was a dare. My first instinct was to hide. My second instinct, the stronger one, said, if I can survive a car seat at 18, I can survive a room full of confident strangers. I circled the date. I started preparing. And for the first time since my birthday, I felt something that wasn't anger or grief. I felt momentum. The startup event didn't feel like opportunity at first. It felt like a room full of people who'd never slept in a car. Clean clothes, confident smiles, business cards like armor. I almost turned around. Then I remembered something ugly and useful. My family trained me to be invisible, and I was done being invisible. I set up my demo and kept it simple. A finance app built for students, not influencers. Expense tracking, scholarship reminders, loan calculators, and one feature I was proud of. A reality check dashboard that showed how one decision, one big purchase, one loan, one missed payment snowballed over time. Because I learned that lesson the hard way. When the judges came by, one guy barely looked at my screen before he smirked and said, "Budgeting apps are everywhere. What makes yours different?" His tone was familiar, dismissive, like my dreams were a hobby. My stomach tightened, but my voice stayed calm. "Mine isn't built for people who have safety nets," I said. "It's built for people who don't." I walked him through the dashboard with numbers, not emotion. I showed him scenarios, tuition gaps, part-time income volatility, emergency expenses. I watched his expression shift from bored to focused because facts don't care about ego. Still, there was competition. One team had polished graphics and a loud pitch. They had the kind of confidence money buys early. I had bruised determination and a story I refused to weaponize for pity. When my turn came, I didn't talk about betrayal first. I talked about impact. Financial literacy isn't a luxury, I said. It's protection. I explained how students get trapped by ignorance, fees, interest, predatory loans, and how a simple tool could teach decision-making before consequences become permanent. I answered questions like I was defending my life, because I was. The applause at the end wasn't thunderous movie magic, but it was real, and real was enough. Afterward, an investor type, sharp eyes, quiet voice, asked me one question that made my spine go cold. Did you build this because someone made a very expensive decision with money that wasn't theirs? I paused. I didn't confirm. I just said, I built it because I'm tired of people paying for other people's choices. He nodded like he understood more than I said. That night, I sat in my car and didn't feel ashamed of it. I felt dangerous in the best way. Not violent, not reckless, dangerous like someone who finally knows how the system works. And the system was exactly how I was going to flip the table. I didn't go back to my family because I missed them. I went back because unresolved betrayal is a chain, and I was done dragging it. I invited them to lunch at a place they loved, the kind of restaurant where they felt important. I chose it on purpose. If they were going to minimize me, they could do it under bright lights with witnesses around. When they arrived, they acted like time had softened everything. My mom smiled too big. My dad wore that calm face he used when he wanted to look reasonable. My sister walked in like she owned air. They tried small talk first, like we were a normal family who simply grew apart. I let them. Then I placed my phone on the table and slid it toward them. I didn't invite you here to catch up, I said. I invited you here to close something. My dad's eyes narrowed. Maya, don't start, he warned, already defensive. I nodded. I'm not starting, I said. I'm finishing. I told them what I'd been doing. School, work, building a product, real results. I didn't brag, I reported. My sister tried to laugh. So you made a little app, she said, dismissive. Cute. That word, cute, was exactly how my parents used to shrink my dreams. I looked at her and smiled once, not warmly. It's not cute, I said. It's audited. My mom blinked. Audited? My dad leaned forward. What are you talking about? I tapped the screen and turned it so they could see a dashboard. Clean, simple, brutal. This, I said, is what happens when people make financial decisions based on entitlement instead of math. I pulled up a scenario that mirrored their choices. A down payment pulled from a fund, hidden costs, debt stacking, interest climbing. Then I showed them the end. Late payments, credit collapse, refinancing traps, foreclosure risk. My dad scoffed. That's hypothetical. I didn't flinch. No, I said quietly. It's your trajectory. My mom's smile cracked. We're fine, she snapped. You don't know our finances. I nodded again. You're right, I said. I didn't, until you used my name on the account you drained. The table went still. My dad's face changed first. Anger, then calculation. You're accusing us of a crime. I kept my voice even. I'm stating a fact, I said. That money was earmarked for my education. You took it without my consent. You can call it family. The bank calls it misappropriation. My mom's eyes widened. How dare you? I cut in gently, which somehow hit harder. How dare I notice? I said. I slid a folder across the table. Inside was not a threat. It was a boundary. A formal repayment proposal. Structured, time-based, fair interest. Options for mediation. I'm not here to ruin you, I said. I'm here to stop you from pretending what you did was normal. My sister's voice rose. You can't do this. You're being vindictive. I looked at her. Vindictive would be letting you drown, I said. This is me offering a ladder with conditions. My dad's hands tightened. We don't have 45,000 sitting around. I nodded. I know, I said, because you spent like consequences were for other people. My mom's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Fear does that, turns loud, people silent. I leaned in slightly. Here's the deal, I said. You're going to sign an acknowledgement that the fund was mine. You're going to repay it on this schedule. And you're going to stop telling people I abandoned the family because I didn't abandon anything. I escaped. My dad's voice dropped. And if we don't? I met his eyes. Then I protect myself, I said. Legally, publicly, permanently. My mom's breathing sped up. My sister looked around like she wanted someone to rescue her from the consequences. For the first time in my life, they didn't look confident. They looked cornered by reality. My dad reached for the folder like it was hot. You've changed, he muttered. I smiled again, colder. No, I said. I just stopped donating my future to your favorite child. I stood up, left enough cash to cover my plate, and said the sentence that ended the old power dynamic. You can call me selfish if it helps you sleep, but you will not call me yours to spend. Then I walked out, and behind me I heard my mother whisper my name like a prayer she didn't deserve to use. They tried to regain control after lunch the only way they knew how, panic disguised as anger. Calls, texts, long voicemails where my dad sounded wounded and my mom sounded furious, like I'd stolen something from them, like accountability. For a week, I didn't answer. I let silence do what arguments never could, force them to sit with what they'd done without my emotional labor cushioning it. Meanwhile, my life kept moving. The accelerator application Benny suggested became my next gate, and this time I didn't walk in begging to be chosen. I walked in prepared to prove value. I refined the app, documented results, built a pilot program with students, and learned how to pitch without shrinking my voice. When the panel asked why I was obsessed with consequences, I told the truth without begging for sympathy. Because people like me don't get second chances unless we build them. That room respected that. I secured funding. Not fantasy money, real money with contracts and expectations. I hired a small team. I launched. And when the downloads started climbing, I didn't feel triumph the way I imagined as a teenager. I felt relief. Relief that my future wasn't a favor my parents could cancel. The twist came months later, and it wasn't cinematic. It was an email from a number I didn't recognize, with a subject line that made my stomach tighten. Notice of default. It wasn't addressed to me. It was forwarded, accidentally or intentionally, because my mom still didn't understand boundaries. Their house situation was collapsing. The down payment they'd stolen didn't create stability. It created a fragile tower of payments and pride, and now the tower was shaking. My sister's husband couldn't cover what they'd been pretending they could afford. My parents' credit was strained. They were running out of exits. And suddenly, the people who told me take loans were drowning in debt they didn't know how to manage. My mom finally called from a different number, voice small in a way I'd never heard. Maya, she said, and there it was. The new tone, the one they reserve for people they can't control. We need to talk. I didn't yell. I didn't gloat. I asked one question, the same way they taught me to be cold. Is this about me? Or is this about money? Silence. Then a shaky breath. We're in trouble, she admitted. I closed my eyes and pictured 18-year-old me in the backseat of my car, hungry, scared, determined. I pictured my mom saying, "You'll get over it." I opened my eyes and chose a response that honored my healing, not their panic. I offered a repayment plan, I said. That's the conversation. My mom's voice cracked. Please, she whispered. We're your family. I let the words hang there for a moment, not to punish her, but to let her feel what it's like when a sentence has no power. Family doesn't mean access, I said. Family means responsibility. My dad took the phone, voice sharp, trying to reclaim dominance. So you're really going to let us lose everything? I exhaled slowly. You didn't lose everything, I said. You spent it. There's a difference. He started to argue, but I ended it the way grown adults end cycles, with a boundary. Sign the acknowledgement, I said. Stick to the plan. If you can't, we can do mediation. But I'm not your emergency fund. I'm not your scapegoat. And I'm not the kid you can sacrifice to keep your golden child comfortable. Then I hung up. No dramatic music. Just peace. Later that night, I wrote a letter to my younger self, not to my parents. Dear Maya, you were never too much. You were just surrounded by people who needed you to be small so they could feel big. You sleeping in that car wasn't your shame. It was your beginning. And one day, you'll learn the most expensive lesson is also the most freeing one. Love that costs you. Your future isn't love. It's control. In the end, my revenge wasn't ruining them. It was becoming someone they couldn't rewrite. It was choosing education over approval, valuable knowledge over empty loyalty, and building a life where family couldn't be used as a weapon. Now I want to ask you, honestly, if you were in my position, would you forgive them if they apologize too late? Or would you protect your peace and walk away? And have you ever been the strong one in your family, the one who's expected to sacrifice without question? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read them. I learned from them. And if this story hit you, subscribe, because the next one might feel even closer to home.